It was the day my only child, Isabella, was to marry. A day I'd envisioned for decades. Yet as I stood there witnessing her transformation into a radiant bride, her voice, sharp as cut glass, pierced the air. "Father, I specifically asked you not to come. Please leave." My world fractured a silent retreat, a heart consumed by a betrayal so profound. But in less than 2 hours, that pristine celebration would descend into chaos. Was it vengeance? No, merely the inescapable embrace of justice. My hand, trembling slightly, lost its grip on the delicate champagne flute. It shattered against the polished onyx floor, a constellation of crystal fragments, mirroring the stark disbelief etched across Isabella's face. "Arthur, what are you doing here?" Her voice, a strained whisper, silenced the hushed murmurs of the elite guests. The intricate lace of her gown, a garment I'd personally selected and paid a fortune for, rustled as she recoiled. "You weren't invited," she repeated, her gaze fixed on the antique music box I clutched. The grand hall, adorned with cascading white orchids flown in from the Netherlands, reeked of money and an unspoken dismissal. Light streamed from the massive skylight, glinting off the ornate golden pillars I'd financed. "My dear, it's your wedding." I managed my voice, a hollow echo in the vast space. "I only wished to offer my blessings." Julian, her fiancé, materialized at her side, his bespoke suit immaculate, his smile a chilling, calculated affair. "Mr. Vance," he began, his tone condescendingly polite. "I believe there's been a slight miscalculation." Miscalculation. My gaze flitted between them, searching Isabella's elegant features for any trace of the child who once giggled as I spun her tirelessly on the carousel. She shifted, acutely aware of the hushed scrutiny from the assembled guests. Women draped in couture, their whispers like rustling silk. Men in impeccably tailored suits, feigning disinterest while absorbing every syllable. "This," Isabella enunciated, her voice strained with mortification, "is an intimate family gathering. Only immediate family." Her words were a glacial current, sweeping away 3 decades of shared laughter, scraped knees, and tireless support. 30 years of prioritizing her future, her education, her dreams above my own comfort or security. "I funded this entire event, Isabella." I stated, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. "Every single detail, down to the very silk of your gown." Julian's jaw clenched. "Wealth alone doesn't confer status, Mr. Vance." "He's right," Father Isabella murmured, her eyes avoiding mine. "It's not just about the cost. It's about belonging. You wouldn't comprehend the caliber of individuals present here." Oh, I comprehended. The architects of their gilded cages were never invited inside to dwell. The patriarch who'd paved her golden path had fulfilled his utility. A suffocating silence had descended upon the room. A photographer lowered his lens while the chamber orchestra ironically continued their harmonious strains, oblivious to the discord. "I understand," I replied carefully, placing the music box on a vacant pedestal beside a vase of untouched orchids. "I wouldn't wish to cause any further discomfort." "Father, please," Isabella pleaded, a hint of desperation in her tone. "Don't complicate this." I gazed at her, etching every detail of her face into memory, the sapphire eyes inherited from her mother, now devoid of warmth. The perfect, expensive smile I'd paid dearly for, now averted from me. "You're right," I conceded softly. "My place isn't here." The journey to the exit felt interminable, a solitary march. The delicate tap of expensive shoes resumed behind me, punctuated by a brittle artificial laugh. My own sturdy work boots, meticulously shined for this ill-fated day, felt alien and ponderous on the pristine, polished stone. Outside, the cool spring air filled my lungs, a surprising taste of liberation. The sprawling valet lot gleamed with foreign luxury vehicles, a parade of wealth I'd never aspire to. My own worn utility truck sat humbly, almost defiantly, in the furthest corner, exactly where it belonged in their meticulously crafted world. I pulled out my phone, my hands remarkably steady. 3 decades of forging a business from sheer grit had instilled an unbreakable resolve. 3 decades of unwavering devotion to an ultimately ungrateful child had revealed the stark price of misplaced loyalty. The screen flickered, displaying urgent missed calls from my legal counsel regarding a significant land dispute. I scrolled past them, seeking a different number, one I hadn't dialed in months, but now desperately required. My finger hovered over the contact. Vanguard Financial Solutions. Inside that gilded ballroom, my daughter was ushering in her new existence, oblivious to my absence. Out here, I was about to embark on my own free of her. The line rang once, then connected. The grand gilded doors of the venue sealed behind me with the ominous thud of a vault door locking. The faint echoes of wedding music receded into distant whispers as I strode across the polished asphalt toward my truck, each step more resolute than the last. The antique music box, my offering, remained on their lavish table, discarded like every other sacrifice I'd made for them. A brisk early spring wind carried the raw scent of impending rain. Overhead, darker clouds amassed above the venue's elaborate turrets, casting long, encroaching shadows across the fleet of luxury vehicles, each costing more than a modest home. My work boots crunched on the scattered gravel as I reached the truck. Keys were already clenched in my hand. Inside the familiar confines of the cab, a profound silence enveloped me, an almost palpable armor. The dashboard clock glowed 3:47 p.m. Ample time before the banks closed on a Saturday. More than enough time to make several crucial calls. I navigated through my contacts, locating the precise entry. Vanguard Financial Solutions appeared on the screen. My thumb paused, a deliberate 3-second hesitation before pressing the call button. Vanguard Financial. Patricia speaking. How may I assist you? Patricia, this is Arthur Vance, account number 991734489. I need to initiate stop payments on several authorized transactions. Of course, Mr. Vance, let me pull up your account. Can you verify your social security number and mother's maiden name? A voice of cool, professional routine. I recited the requested details, my gaze drawn to the stream of guests still arriving through the venue's grand entrance. Women glided in silk and sequins, men adjusted expensive cufflinks, utterly unaware of the seismic shift about to commence. Thank you. I see several substantial transactions from today. Which ones specifically? All wedding-related payments, venue rental catering, deposit floral arrangements, photography, music, services. Each item flowed from my tongue with the crisp precision of a financial audit. Implementation needs to be immediate. Sir, these are significant amounts. Are you certain about stopping all payments? A hint of surprise in her tone. Completely certain. There's been a definitive change in circumstances. The distinct clicks of a keyboard filled the brief silence. I'll require authorization codes for transactions over $10,000. I rattled off the codes from memory, a testament to 2.5 decades of operating a construction business. A career that had ingrained every crucial number, every contract clause, every payment authorization into my very being. Stop payments are now in effect. Confirmation numbers are being generated. Is there anything else that covers the banking side? Thank you, Patricia. My next call went to the city's most exclusive catering company, the one Isabella had insisted upon despite their astronomical rates. Elite Culinary Affairs. This is Marcus. Marcus, this is Arthur Vance. I'm calling about the Thorne wedding reception happening right now. Oh yes, Mr. Vance. Everything is going beautifully. The guests are absolutely raving about the appetizers. I'm afraid there's been a financial complication. Payment authorization has been revoked. You'll want to protect your equipment and any remaining food service. A profound silence stretched between us. Then a strained voice, I'm sorry. What exactly are you saying? The bank has stopped payment on your contract. Effective immediately. I suggest you secure your assets. But we're in the middle of service. The main course hasn't even been served. That's unfortunate timing. My voice remained steady, professional, devoid of any discernible emotion. You might want to speak with the wedding party about alternative payment arrangements. Marcus disconnected without another word. Smart man. The florist answered on the second ring. Petal and Vine. Susan speaking. Susan, this is Arthur Vance regarding the Thorne wedding flowers. Mr. Vance, the arrangements look simply stunning. The bride was so pleased with the orchids, there's been a payment issue. Bank authorization has been cancelled. You'll need to salvage any value. You may collect them, but they're inextricably woven into the entire design scheme of this venue. Business is business, Susan. I suggest you act with swiftness. 3 more calls were placed. The high-end photography studio, the acclaimed string ensemble, even the bespoke linen supplier. Each exchange mirrored the last initial professional pleasantries, a swift descent into palpable alarm, and then abrupt disconnections as the vendors scrambled to protect their interests. My phone's display read 4:15 p.m. as I ended the final call. Through the truck's windshield, I observed a sleek unmarked catering van pull up to the venue's rear service entrance. Marcus no doubt arriving to salvage what little remained. Inside that opulent ballroom, Isabella was likely still gracefully accepting felicitations, blissfully oblivious that her impeccably curated wedding was poised to become a spectacularly expensive, cautionary tale. Julian, assured of his inherent superiority over those who merely built things with their hands, was probably deep in conversation, charming his father's influential associates. Neither of them had truly grasped the exorbitant price of their hubris today. I engaged the ignition and steered the old utility truck out of its parking spot, cruising slowly past the grand main entrance of the estate. Glimpses through the towering arched windows revealed the reception in full swing, crystal flutes glinting in celebratory toasts, elegant silhouettes gliding across the polished marble floors, all of it a tableau on the precipice of ruin. My phone vibrated, Isabella's name illuminating the screen. I let it ring. The dashboard clock clicked to 4:20 p.m. when the first vehicle of reclamation arrived. Opulent Blooms was elegantly scripted across the pristine white paneling of a florist's van. Susan, the proprietor, was at the wheel, 2 assistants riding shotgun. They parked with purposeful precision near the service entrance and began offloading empty industrial-grade containers with the practiced efficiency of a well-drilled unit. Through the panoramic windows, I could still discern the lively cocktail reception utterly undisturbed. Reflected chandelier light danced off countless crystal glasses as guests circulated among Isabella's imported orchids. Julian, animated, gestured broadly to a cluster of gentlemen in impeccably tailored suits, likely expounding on his latest grand financial conquest. Neither the radiant bride nor her self-satisfied groom noticed the flower retrieval team slipping discreetly through a side service door. Isabella stood near the main entrance, a vision in $12,000 worth of imported silk and lustrous pearls, accepting a steady stream of congratulations from her assembled kin. Her laughter, bright and unrestrained, echoed across the vast ballroom. That sound, I knew, would soon curdle. Susan, now accompanied by her two large plastic collection bins, appeared at the ballroom's main threshold. She walked with unwavering purpose directly toward the majestic altar arrangement, her assistants fanning out to tackle the smaller, strategically placed displays. A ripple of confusion began to spread through the guests' celebration, slowly giving way to bewildered murmurs as the team began methodically dismantling the grand centerpiece. "Excuse me, Isabella." Her voice, laced with the practiced charm of someone accustomed to commanding staff, approached Susan. "We are in the midst of our reception. Whatever you need can certainly wait until later." Susan straightened a bundle of pristine white orchids clutched in her hand. "Ma'am, I'm Susan from Opulent Blooms. Payment authorization for these arrangements was rescinded approximately 40 minutes ago. I'm here to recover our property." Isabella's practiced smile wavered but held firm. "That's impossible. Everything was paid for weeks ago. The account holder, Mr. Arthur Vance, contacted us directly. All payments have been stopped." Susan continued her work, methodically removing flowers with an air of professional detachment. "I have explicit written authorization to collect our arrangements." The color visibly drained from Isabella's face. Around them, the guests, now fully aware, fell into a stunned silence. Julian crossed the vast room in rapid, furious strides, his expression transitioning from initial bewilderment to raw, incandescent rage. "What in God's name is happening here?" His voice, loud and imperious, carried the undeniable authority of someone utterly unaccustomed to being questioned. "Payment issues, sir. We're collecting unpaid merchandise," Susan replied calmly. Her assistant was already meticulously wrapping the grand altar arrangement in protective plastic sheeting. "This is completely unacceptable." Julian's face flushed a deep crimson. "Get your manager on the phone immediately." "I am the manager." Susan retorted, her voice firm. "And our contract clearly states that canceled payments void our service obligations." She nodded subtly to her assistants, who now began systematically collecting the table centerpieces, all while the assembled guests watched in growing dismay. A stunned hush descended, quickly intensified by the arrival of the gourmet ascent catering van outside its crisp white panels, a stark contrast to the unfolding chaos inside. Marcus emerged, followed by 3 staff members, their expressions grim with a shared professional resolve. They entered through the grand main doors, this time making no pretense of discretion. Isabella watched, utterly transfixed, as the magnificent orchids vanished into their utilitarian containers, her perfect, carefully constructed composure fracturing like delicate porcelain. There must be some mistake. My father wouldn't. He couldn't. Marcus, clipboard clutched firmly in hand, approached her. "Ma'am, we are contractually obligated to cease all food service immediately." Julian stepped between Marcus and Isabella, his voice rising thick with a venomous disbelief. "Payment authorization was revoked at 4:15. We're legally bound to protect our equipment and remaining inventory. This is my wedding reception." Julian thundered, his face flushing crimson. "You can't just halt service in the middle of an event." Marcus met his gaze, unflinching. "Sir, we can, and we absolutely must. When payment authorization is canceled, standard procedure dictates immediate asset protection. He signaled his team, who moved with practiced efficiency, unfurling pristine white cloths to shroud the lavish serving stations. Guests shuffled nervously, champagne flutes once held high in celebration now forgotten in their hands. Conversation had dissolved into worried whispers, punctuated only by the sharp, intrusive ring of an unanswered phone. The acclaimed string ensemble fell silent as their equipment coordinator materialized, grim-faced. Microphones powered down with soft clicks. Speakers hummed, then died. Even the ambient lighting seemed to dim as the sound technician methodically disconnected his mixing board. Isabella stood frozen amidst the sudden void, a shimmering statue of a bride, her opulent gown pristine in the wreckage of her collapsing reception. "This can't be happening," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Not today. Not like this." "Isabella, what kind of arrangement did your family make?" Julian's voice now laced with icy suspicion, his anger redirected from the disappearing vendors squarely at his bride. "I don't know," she stammered, the first tremor of genuine panic fraying at the edges of her voice. "Everything was supposed to be handled." The venue coordinator, a woman named Mrs. Anderson, appeared, her phone pressed tightly against her ear, speaking in urgent, hushed tones. She approached Isabella with obvious reluctance, her gaze carefully avoiding contact. "Mrs. Thorne, I've just spoken with our accounting department. All payments for today's event originated from a single account belonging to Mr. Arthur Vance. That account holder has revoked authorization for every single transaction." Isabella's composure shattered completely, fragments scattering like the crystal on the onyx floor. The pampered daughter, previously oblivious, was finally grasping the full crushing weight of her father's profound generosity and the brutal, inescapable consequences of her own cruelty. With trembling fingers, she fumbled for her phone, scrolling frantically to a familiar contact. Outside, in the parking lot, my phone vibrated against the dashboard, Isabella's name illuminating the screen. Through the truck's windshield, I could discern her silhouette in the grand doorway of the venue phone, pressed to her ear with desperate urgency. I didn't answer. Not yet. 3 decades of loving that child, of sacrificing everything, had culminated in this moment. 3 decades of believing that unwavering devotion would forge character, not destroy it. She was 3 years old when her mother, Sarah, succumbed to cancer after 6 brutal months, leaving me with a toddler who asked for mommy every morning and every night. I could have remarried quickly, found someone to help raise her. Instead, I chose to be everything Isabella needed, myself. "Daddy, will you read me another story?" she'd asked at age 5, curled against my chest in her pink pajamas. I'd already read 3 books and had an early morning meeting with potential investors. But her green eyes, Sarah's eyes, held such pure, trusting adoration. "Of course, sweetheart," I'd replied. "Daddy always has time for you." That became my unwavering motto. Arthur Vance always had time for Isabella, and money, and whatever she needed to be happy. Private school tuition consumed half my quarterly profits when she turned 8. The best education money can buy. I'd told myself writing checks that meant fewer business expansions, smaller personal budgets. Isabella had hugged me fiercely when I told her about Riverside Academy. "Thank you, Daddy," she'd whispered. "I'll study really hard and make you proud." She did study hard. Exemplary grades throughout her primary years and school plays where my calloused hands, marked by the sweat and grit of construction, applauded louder than any other parents. Isabella would seek me out afterwards, her face radiant with pride. "Did you see me remember all my lines, Daddy?" I was thinking about you the whole time. High school, however, brought a subtle yet profound shift. The exclusive Riverside Academy introduced her to a world of classmates born with trust funds, inheritors of estates, and sprawling summer homes. Isabella started perceiving the subtle chasms between our lives and theirs. Her lavish 16th birthday gala, orchestrated with professional caterers and bespoke decorations, surpassed the cost of many people's cars. A sleek new luxury sedan sat in her friends' driveways. Everyone else got an Aston Martin. Dad, she'd commented, a hint of disdain in her voice. This Land Rover feels inadequate. That year, 2015, marked a pivotal turn. Money transitioned from a welcomed gift to an expected entitlement. I regret not heeding that stark warning. College expenses nearly crippled the business expansion I had meticulously planned. Northwestern University, Isabella's ultimate academic aspiration, demanded sacrifices far beyond mere tuition fees. Sorority dues, extravagant spring break excursions to the Caribbean, and exclusive study abroad programs in Tuscany. Each new semester brought a fresh wave of financial demands. Father, I need $5,000 for the executive leadership retreat. It's absolutely vital for networking. Phone calls, once a source of connection, devolved into curt transaction requests. Visits home diminished to holiday obligations. When Isabella did deign to call, the conversation lasted precisely as long as it took to explain her urgent monetary need and the absolute immediacy of the required transfer. Graduate school brought Julian Blackwood into her orbit. His lineage was synonymous with old wealth, his family connections deeply entrenched in a world I could never access, despite my decades of relentless toil. Isabella began to cast critical glances at my attire during family gatherings. Father, could you perhaps wear something other than those work boots when you visit Julian's associates? Will be there. The daughter who once nestled against me, thanking me for whispered bedtime stories, now felt a prickling shame for the very man who had painstakingly provided her every desire. The undeniable success of my construction enterprise held no cachet within her burgeoning social circle. The company I had painstakingly built, the one that seamlessly funded her opulent lifestyle, paradoxically rendered me unsuitable for that very lifestyle. Last Christmas, she'd introduced me to Julian's parents with a dismissive wave. This is Arthur Vance, Isabella's father, who owns a small contracting firm. 3 decades of building Vance Holdings from nothing, employing over 60 dedicated individuals, generating more than enough capital to sustain her princess-like existence, all reduced to a small contracting firm. Father, we need to discuss the wedding funding. Julian's family maintains certain expectations for the ceremony. Not a whisper of gratitude, not a hesitant, "We'd be so grateful for your help," but merely expectations, as if my entire life's work existed solely to fulfill her escalating social requirements. The wedding planning sessions felt less like joyful preparations and more like cutthroat corporate negotiations. Isabella arrived armed with meticulously organized spreadsheets. Julian interjected with opinions on cost efficiency completely detached from the human labor involved. Neither acknowledged that every single line item represented months of my unrelenting effort. Orchids flown in from Holland. Champagne, each bottle costing more than my workers earned in a day. A bridal gown worth more than most people's annual rent. "This isn't about money, Father," she'd declared with an imperious sniff. "It's about quality. Julian's family understands quality. Quality that my money had procured, yet my very presence seemed to tarnish. The sheer magnitude of my financial success, which enabled their fantastical dream wedding, concurrently deemed me too common to attend it. My phone vibrated again, Isabella's third frantic attempt in 5 minutes. Through the towering, arched windows of the venue, I could distinctly see her pacing, her impossibly expensive gown trailing behind her like a tattered flag of surrender. 3 decades of sacrifice had meticulously choreographed this precise moment. Not a daughter brimming with gratitude celebrating her father's profound generosity, but a desperate woman finally agonizingly comprehending the true cost of what she had deliberately discarded. The irony was exquisite. The boundless love that had so utterly spoiled her would now, through its sudden withdrawal, impart its true, devastating value. I reached for the phone, my thumb hovering. It was time. The engine hummed quietly as I eased the old utility truck out of its parking spot. Isabella's frantic silhouette shrank in my rearview mirror. Her phone glowed like a persistent beacon in the gathering twilight, calling me for the 7th time in 10 minutes. Each ring felt deliberate, controlled, marking my timing, not hers. The drive home took 20 minutes through Spokane's Saturday evening traffic, 20 minutes of watching my phone lee. The screen continued to glow with Isabella's name. Each subsequent attempt was laced with a fresh urgency. By the time my old truck rumbled into the driveway, 4 frantic messages awaited me. I settled into the quiet of the garage, the engine finally stilled, and began to listen. The garage door descended behind me, a heavy final curtain drawing on the day's prelude. The first message began, "Father, there's an issue with the payments. A terrible error. Call me back, please, immediately." Her voice, shrill with confusion, filled the small space. The second followed. "This isn't amusing anymore. The vendors are dismantling everything. Everyone's staring. Just call me back." Then the third, laced with genuine distress, "Please, Father. I don't comprehend what's unfolding. Julian's family is demanding answers I cannot give." The fourth message, her voice cracking, now raw with something akin to panic. "I need you. Please pick up, please." The phone vibrated to life again as the final message ended. Isabella's name stark against the screen next to a photo from her opulent college graduation. That graduation, a distant memory, felt like the last time her embrace hadn't been preceded by a financial request. I let the phone ring a 5th time before answering. "Hello, Isabella." "Father, finally. What have you done? How could you sabotage my wedding?" Her tone was pure, unadulterated panic, completely devoid of the icy dismissal she'd wielded hours before. Good. Panic signaled dawning awareness. Awareness was the painful precursor to comprehension. "I haven't sabotaged anything. I stated my voice meticulously even. I merely ceased the flow of payments. You can't just cease. This is my wedding day. There are dozens of guests, demanding to know why the flowers vanished and why dinner service was suspended." "Where are you calling from?" I inquired. "The hotel," she blurted. "We were forced to. The venue coordinator insisted we settle all outstanding balances immediately, or we'd be ejected." That explained the hollow echo in her voice, the conspicuous absence of festive music in the background. "Isabella." I continued, my tone hardening slightly. "I need you to listen very carefully. When precisely was the last time you expressed gratitude for anything I've provided?" "What, Father? This is hardly the moment for your lectures. I need you to contact these vendors and rectify this disaster. Answer the question. When was the last time you conveyed genuine appreciation for my unwavering financial support?" A strained silence hung between us. In the distant background, I detected Julian's voice, sharp with unconcealed frustration. I can't recall specific instances," she stammered. "But I've always been appreciative." "You know that, Father." "Actually, Isabella, I don't know that. What I do know is that a mere 3 hours ago you explicitly informed me I had no place at your wedding. A wedding I funded in its entirety. I didn't mean it like that. I was under duress. Wedding day anxieties." Her voice subtly shifted, adopting the familiar manipulative wheedle she'd mastered during her university years when coaxing funds for exotic getaways. "Father, please, I swear, I'll compensate you for all of this. We can discuss everything extensively later, but right now, I desperately need you to reauthorize these payments so we can salvage what remains of the reception." "And what exactly is left?" I inquired. "The cake is still here. Some guests remain. The photographer is hoping we can still reach an arrangement," she rattled off. "And what precisely do you intend to use as payment, Isabella?" Another silence, this one more profound. I assumed you would manage it. You've always managed everything. Indeed, I always have," I confirmed. "Do you have any conception of the total sum I've invested in you over the past 2.5 decades? Father, please don't force me to play guessing games with numbers right now. I'm in crisis mode here. Just a rough estimate. Take a guess." I don't know, perhaps 50,000. I nearly scoffed aloud. 50,000 wouldn't have covered a single semester of her tuition at Northwestern, let alone an entire year. "Isabella," I stated, my voice flat, "since your mother passed, I have expended well over $300,000 on your education, accommodations, transportation, and entire lifestyle. That figure, mind you, does not even factor in the costs incurred today." The line went utterly silent, save for the faint sound of her ragged breathing. 300,000, that cannot be accurate. It's a conservative estimate. I possess meticulous documentation for every single expenditure. Why are you informing me of this now?" she demanded. "Because you've never asked, Isabella. In 25 years, you have never once inquired about the actual cost of your opulent lifestyle, nor have you ever expressed the slightest concern about the financial and personal burden it placed upon me." "Burden? I am your daughter." "Yes, you are, and I loved you enough to sacrifice virtually everything for your happiness. The pivotal question, Isabella, is what have you sacrificed for mine?" Julian's voice, now unmistakably loud and agitated, erupted in the background. She clamped a hand over the receiver for a fleeting moment. Their hushed, agitated exchange with Julian bled through the line. "Father Julian's family is quite agitated. They're scrutinizing our finances, demanding answers about how we intend to settle this. That, Isabella, is a matter for you and your new husband to resolve." Her voice, already frayed, grew sharp. "But I don't possess that kind of capital. You know I don't." My reply was chillingly precise. "Then perhaps this is the moment you discover how to acquire it." The silence that followed was a chasm, profound and unyielding, stretching for nearly half a minute. "What do you want from me?" She finally managed, the desperation palpable. "I want you to truly comprehend the magnitude of what you cast aside this afternoon," I articulated, "when you chose to dismiss the very architect of your entire existence." A ragged sigh. I understand now. I was mistaken. Can we rectify this?" My response was deliberately devoid of warmth. "We shall ascertain that in due course. I am currently undertaking a thorough review of our entire financial relationship. There will be comprehensive documentation. We will engage in proper discourse when I deem the time appropriate." I terminated the connection, then powered down my device, severing the last thread. Through the kitchen window, the sprawling lights of Spokane began to flicker into existence, a distant, glittering tapestry. Somewhere within that urban sprawl, Isabella was embarking upon her inaugural night of complete financial autonomy. The true curriculum of her life, I mused, had only just commenced. The soft-focused glow of my desk lamp illuminated the precise contours of 25 years of fastidious record-keeping. Along the far wall of my home office, an imposing regiment of filing cabinets stood sentinel, each drawer a repository of forgotten expenditures of sacrifices Isabella had never deigned to acknowledge. Tonight, these meticulously catalogued truths would finally fulfill their ultimate function. A cup of coffee, still steaming faintly, rested beside my monitor as I pulled open the top drawer, clearly marked, Isabella. Formative education. Behind me, the house exhaled into the tranquil stillness of evening, but my mind thrummed with the same methodical intensity that had forged Vance Holdings from a humble concept into an enterprise employing over 60 dedicated individuals. This was not the chaotic impulsivity of vengeance. This was the cold, precise dissection of an audit. The first folder, Riverside Academy, yielded 12 years of private school tuition statements. Every single payment, from bank transfers to semester reports, was meticulously documented. From a modest $7,500 annually in 2008, the fees had incrementally climbed, reaching $12,500 by her graduation. The raw figures were undeniably stark, a cumulative $128,000 invested in her elementary and high school education alone. I opened a new spreadsheet, my fingers instinctively finding their rhythm on the keyboard. Column headers materialized. Date transaction description. Amount category. Running total. 25 years of paternal devotion, painstakingly distilled into cold data points and complex formulas. The Northwestern University folder followed, significantly more substantial than its predecessors, its contents bulging with a dense chronology of dormitory contracts, gourmet meal plans, and the spiraling costs of elite study-abroad programs. Tuition alone had been a staggering $53,000 per annum for 4 years. Room and board added another $16,000 annually. The hedonistic spring break in Key West during her junior year had tallied $3,800. Her art history immersion in Florence, Italy, had commanded $8,500, absolutely essential for my education, Father. She'd insisted about the Tuscan sojourn. It's how serious individuals in my program establish their vital connections. Page by page, meticulously scanned receipt by receipt, the escalating numbers painted a vivid, uncompromising picture. The grand total for Northwestern, a breathtaking $290,000. 4 years of her collegiate experience had devoured more capital than the average American earned in 6 years of relentless labor. The transportation folder revealed its own predictable and expensive patterns. Her inaugural vehicle at 16, a dependable sedan acquired for $19,000. Everyone else drives luxury imports, she'd remarked, with thinly veiled contempt within 6 months. Her second vehicle at 19, a sleek European model costing $29,000. Her third at 25, a premium European SUV, selected because Julian's associates all drive luxury SUVs, Father. Each acquisition came tethered to escalating insurance premiums, relentless maintenance demands, and myriad registration fees, an entire hidden substructure of expense Isabella had never once bothered to acknowledge. These were the unseen burdens quietly borne by a dedicated father, perpetually absorbing costs without a single word of complaint. My phone vibrated, drawing my gaze. Isabella's name illuminated the screen once more. I allowed it to ring, merely adding another line item to my rapidly expanding spreadsheet. Communication device premium smartphone, current model, $1,250. The technology and lifestyle expenses folder held the most insidious revelations. Her post-graduation apartment in a fashionable downtown district, $2,900 per month for 3 years. Recurrent credit card payments necessitated by her spending habitually exceeding the generous stipend I meticulously provided. Lavish designer wardrobe acquisitions, indulgent spa retreats, exotic vacation excursions with companions whose parents conveniently underwrote similar gilded existences. The cumulative totals burgeoned with the relentless precision of compound interest. Education, $415,000. Transportation, $78,000. Housing support, $130,000. Personal indulgences, $185,000. The wedding itself, $150,000. My digital calculator, poised on the desk, displayed a stark, irrefutable sum, $958,000, almost $1 million meticulously disbursed over a quarter century, each individual expense in isolation appearing justifiable. Her private school had been an invest. Never had Isabella contributed a single cent to her own upkeep. Never had she held a position for more than half a year. Not once had she voiced a sliver of concern about expenses or offered a gesture of thanks for the immense sacrifices. I found myself drawn to the old photo albums meticulously curated throughout her childhood. Isabella at 8, all dimpled smiles and sparkling eyes after her first school play. "Thank you for being there, Daddy. Did you hear how loud everyone cheered?" Isabella at 12, beaming with triumph after clinching the regional spelling bee. "I pictured you when I felt nervous, and it helped me remember all the words. When did I cease to be a father?" She cherished and transformed into a mere financial conduit. For her ever-expanding ambitions, my phone chimed again. Isabella's 16th attempt to reach me since our last conversation. This time, she'd left a voicemail, her voice tight with suppressed panic. "Father, please answer. I've been thinking about what you said. I know I haven't shown enough gratitude. I know I've taken you completely for granted. Julian's family is on the verge of disowning him if we can't offer an immediate satisfactory explanation for this financial chaos. I need to know what you demand from me." What I truly wanted was a quarter century of genuine appreciation that would never materialize. What I craved was irrefutable evidence that Isabella understood the profound value of the support she had so carelessly squandered. I printed the comprehensive spreadsheet summary and began organizing the formidable stack of supporting documents into a regiment of manila folders. Education, transportation, housing, personal luxuries, wedding extravagance. Each folder heavy with the tangible proof of devotion, painstakingly translated into currency of sacrifice, precisely measured in bank transfers. Tomorrow would usher in a dialogue Isabella was utterly unprepared for. It would be a relentless inquisition into accountability, personal responsibility, and the crushing weight of unearned privilege. Tonight, however, was for meticulous preparation. The documentation lay arrayed across my desk, a damning exhibit in an impending courtroom drama. Nearly $1 million of unfaltering support, dispensed without a single question, a modicum of appreciation, or any hint of acknowledgement. Isabella had reigned like an empress, yet treated her primary benefactor with the contempt reserved for a hired hand. That inequitable arrangement was about to undergo a radical transformation. My phone buzzed once more, Isabella's name flashing insistently. I reached for it, then deliberately withdrew my hand. "Not yet. Let her truly grasp the bitter taste of helplessness. Let her experience the sharp sting of financial vulnerability without a safety net. The true curriculum of her life would recommence in the morning. Sunday dawned with a crisp March chill, bringing with it the kind of crystalline clarity that only comes from exhaustive preparation. My briefcase, a somber sentinel by the front door, contained 25 years of incontrovertible evidence. Vance & Associates, a name synonymous with uncompromising legal prowess, had agreed to an emergency consultation at 9:30 a.m., a mutual understanding among powerful individuals that certain matters transcended the convenience of a typical business week. The law office itself exuded an air of gravitas, dark oak paneling legal tomes lining the walls like silent judges, and framed certificates attesting to decades of successful litigation underscored the firm's formidable reputation. Margaret Vance herself, her silver hair swept back impeccably, her bespoke suit radiating a quiet authority, greeted me in the conference room. "Mr. Thorne," she began, her gaze sharp as she reviewed my preliminary documents. "This level of financial record-keeping is utterly exceptional." She spread the thick folders across the polished mahogany table, her eyes swiftly scanning the financial summaries with practiced efficiency. Each page represented months of Isabella's lavish lifestyle, underwritten by my unwavering sacrifice. The total sum involved nearly $1 million over 25 years, she noted, looking up at me. "That's a substantial amount, even by our standards." "I want this handled with absolute professionalism," I stated, settling into the plush leather chair opposite her, my voice devoid of any discernible emotion. "No sentiment. Just business. Isabella needs to fully comprehend the financial reality of what she's so blithely disregarded." Margaret nodded her pen, scribbling notes on a pristine yellow legal pad. "The meticulous documentation supports several avenues, Mr. Thorne. We can pursue the recharacterization of these funds as a formalized loan or establish a clear promissory note. Given the undeniable pattern of escalating demands, without any reciprocal responsibility, our options for recovery are extensive." She meticulously outlined the strategic approach with surgical precision. A formal demand letter requesting full repayment within 30 days. A comprehensively detailed accounting of all funds. Expenditures with supporting evidence. A clear timeline for response and negotiation. And naturally, professional consequences for non-compliance. This approach, Margaret had assured me, transformed a bitter family dispute into a clean, indisputable business transaction, much cleaner for everyone involved. By late morning, the formidable dossier was complete. The letter emblazoned with Vance & Associates' distinguished letterhead was an unequivocal declaration. The ultimatum was stark full repayment of $950,000 within 30 days, or the full weight of the legal system would be brought to bear. We arranged for immediate courier delivery that afternoon, a signature required, ensuring an official record of receipt. I drove home with copies of every document, a peculiar blend of grim satisfaction and profound sadness swirling within me for the necessity of such measures. Isabella had meticulously crafted this situation through decades of entitlement. I was simply providing the consequences she'd systematically avoided. At precisely 2:15 p.m., my phone chimed. A discreet notification from the courier service confirming successful delivery to Isabella's bridal suite at the Spokane Grand Hotel, room 1427. The signed receipt bore the name Isabella Thorne, Blackwood. The formal process had commenced. I pictured her initial bewilderment when the hotel concierge discreetly notified her of an urgent legal delivery, likely dismissing it as yet another vendor-related formality. Then Julian Blackwood, ever the self-important patriarch in waiting, would seize control, his fingers breaking the official seal with casual disdain, only for his self-assured posture to falter as he began to read. Comprehension. A slow and agonizing dawn began to break, just as my phone screen flickered to life at 2:47 p.m. Isabella Thorne's name pulsed repeatedly. I allowed each persistent ring to fade into voicemail, listening as her initial confusion escalated into raw desperation. The first message, shrill and disbelieving: "Father, what is this dreadful document? This cannot be real." The second, a strangled whisper, "Nearly $1 million, that's utterly impossible. You never indicated these were loans." The third, tinged with genuine panic, "Please call me back. Julian's family. They're already scrutinizing everything, asking questions I simply cannot answer." The fourth message, her voice fracturing entirely. "I don't understand how everything could have disintegrated so rapidly, so completely." At the opulent Grand Hotel, Isabella and Julian were embarking on a brutal accelerated education in accountability, an unforgiving lesson administered with the full force of legal authority. 25 years of unreciprocated largesse had been meticulously reclassified as recoverable debt. Their financial reliance, once an unspoken given, was now irrefutably documented, precisely quantified, and subjected to the uncompromising rigors of debt collection. The wedding debacle, I mused, had merely been the overture. This indeed was the main act. Margaret, my legal counsel, had articulated the process with chilling clarity: civil debt recovery governed by standard, unyielding procedures. They would require legal representation to even formulate a proper response, a cost they couldn't afford, for a debt they couldn't possibly repay. Isabella's frantic attempts persisted throughout the afternoon. 15 missed calls, 8 increasingly desperate voicemails, each one a stark revelation of her deepening helplessness. The woman who had so cavalierly dismissed me from her own wedding was at last truly beginning to grasp the profound magnitude of what she had in fact dismissed. The irony was devastatingly perfect. For a quarter-century, Isabella had luxuriated in my financial patronage, accepting it as an inherent right. Now she confronted an unyielding 30-day deadline to repay every last cent, with severe professional and social ramifications for failure to comply. My phone vibrated again, her 16th attempt. This time I decided to answer. "Father, please. We must discuss this rationally." Isabella's voice, raw and strained, crackled through the phone's speaker, the earlier panic now replaced by an almost audible exhaustion. "This legal document, it simply cannot be real." I settled deeper into my kitchen chair, the faint steam curling from my coffee cup. Through the window, Spokane's Sunday afternoon offered a tableau of serene normalcy, families strolling with their dogs, children cycling merrily. Ordinary people living ordinary lives. "The document, Isabella, is entirely real," I stated, my voice steady as is the 30-day window you have been afforded for your response. "But nearly $1 million, that's utterly impossible. You never indicated any of it was a loan, and I never declared it a gift, Isabella. You merely assumed." In the background I could discern Julian's voice, sharp with unconcealed frustration, the distinct rustle of paper, the restless sound of someone pacing. "Isabella, I need a clear understanding of something." I continued, my tone unwavering. Who precisely do you intend to solicit for assistance in this predicament? A prolonged silence stretched between us. Then her voice, hesitant. My family. My friends. People who truly care about me. I see I replied, a chilling finality in my tone. Well, you have 29 days remaining. I suggest you commence those calls immediately. I terminated the call and silenced my phone. It was time for Isabella to unearth a truth I had long understood, that nearly $1 million in debt, would serve as an uncompromising litmus test for her network, separating fair-weather allies from any semblance of genuine support. Throughout that long Sunday afternoon, Isabella Thorne's name pulsed insistently across my phone screen, a digital SOS. I observed its frantic persistence, allowing each call to lapse into the void of voicemail, each message to remain unplayed. As twilight deepened, the electronic plea ceased. Monday's dawn arrived, cloaked in an unsettling quiet. No more incessant notifications from Isabella. No desperate pleas echoing from my device. I simply drove to the burgeoning construction site, where the earth was being sculpted for a new commercial tower. The rhythmic clang of steel, the earthy scent of churned soil, the profound satisfaction of tangible creation had always clarified my thoughts. Around 10, Dave, my longtime foreman, approached, his hard hat tilted slightly. Boss, you've got a different look today. Everything's squared away. Family matters, Dave. I replied, my gaze fixed on the excavator carving out the foundation. Sometimes you have to initiate difficult lessons for their ultimate benefit. My phone vibrated, signaling an incoming text. From Isabella. Father, I've exhausted my contacts. Everyone is aghast at the sum. Please, you must call me. I dismissed it, deleting the notification without a thought. An hour later, another arrived. Aunt Vivian just stated she cannot interfere. She suggested I need to grasp personal accountability. What does she even mean? Followed by, Aunt Eleanor refuses to answer my calls. My old friend Chloe keeps asking why I never established a career. Everyone is acting as if I am the architect of this disaster. The stream of texts continued throughout the afternoon, each one a stark chronicle of Isabella's spiraling isolation. Her former college roommate abruptly ended their discussion, citing unforeseen complications. Her sorority sisters, accustomed to her lavish lifestyle, were suddenly bewildered by the scale of her financial predicament. The handful of acquaintances still willing to engage confessed an utter inability to assist with such astronomical figures. Julian, meanwhile, was navigating his own familial tempest. His mother had reportedly contacted him multiple times, her tone sharp, with indignant demands for clarification. His father had convened an emergency family summit concerning the preservation of their esteemed reputation, and his brother had initiated unsettling inquiries regarding prenuptial financial transparency. By Tuesday, the stark trajectory was unmistakable. Isabella's carefully cultivated network of convenience was crumbling under the crushing burden of her immense debt. Individuals who had enthusiastically partaken in her opulent parties and accepted her extravagant favors were now conspicuously absent, offering only polite excuses when confronted with her desperate pleas for aid. Wednesday delivered a fresh communication. Father Julian's family is coercing him to contemplate annulment. They contend our union was predicated on a fraudulent financial premise. Please, we must discuss this and rectify it. A faint, grim satisfaction touched me. Julian's parents, it seemed, possessed a far quicker grasp of pragmatic realities than their deluded son. Thursday's text was starker. No one will assist. Every single person has an evasion. Julian barely speaks to me anymore. His parents are insisting he consult legal counsel to safeguard his assets. I cannot fathom how this entire edifice crumbled so swiftly. 25 days remained on the ultimatum. Isabella was at last receiving a rigorous education in the unforgiving economics of self-sufficiency, a curriculum she had assiduously avoided for decades. The lesson, I reflected, was unfolding precisely as engineered. Friday morning's stillness possessed a new unnerving quality. No frantic texts from Isabella. No anguished voicemails. Only an absence so profound, I found myself habitually checking my device, ensuring its operational integrity. The counter-assault commenced. Monday. Rachel, my executive assistant, appeared at my office door just past 9, a printed email clutched in her hand, her expression etched with patent unease. "Mr. Vance," she began. "This arrived from the Spokane Business Chronicle. They're probing into alleged familial discord impacting your corporate standing." I scanned the digital correspondence twice. Its ostensibly professional language thinly veiled pointed insinuations concerning my leadership stability and perceived treatment of close relations. Someone had been actively disseminating information. "Any indication of the source?" I inquired. "And then there's this." Rachel extended her tablet, its screen displaying a public post from a popular social media platform boasting over 200 shares. It featured Isabella's radiant wedding portrait, accompanied by a lengthy, emotionally charged narrative depicting a callous parent who had callously orchestrated the ruination of her most cherished day, now compounding the cruelty by demanding an impossible financial restitution as retribution. The online statement painted me as a man unraveling exacting revenge for imagined slights. A deluge of outrage followed with hundreds of condemnations and expressions of sympathy. Several influential local entrepreneurs, long-standing colleagues, found themselves tagged in the escalating digital storm. My phone buzzed, displaying a call from Bob Martinez of Martinez Concrete, a professional connection spanning 2 decades. "Arthur," his voice was tight with concern, "I'm seeing troubling reports online. People are alleging issues with your daughter's wedding finances." "Bob," I replied calmly, "there's a meticulously documented narrative that vastly contradicts these claims." "I truly hope so," he cautioned, "because some individuals are already raising questions about your current city contracts. You understand the intricate political landscape here." 3 additional calls arrived within the hour, each echoing similar anxieties, probing subtly into my stability and business acumen. Isabella and Julian had indeed been diligently at work. Julian's strategy was transparent. His family's name, synonymous with old money and influence in Spokane, provided him access to exclusive social echelons, country clubs, philanthropic boards, and professional guilds where one's standing was paramount. They leveraged these connections to amplify Isabella's portrayal as a wronged victim. Local online forums rapidly propagated distorted versions of the narrative. "Construction magnate demands exorbitant sum from daughter after wedding catastrophe," read one headline. "Another Spokane businessman pursues litigation against own child over wedding expenses." Each iteration spiraled, growing more sensational, more damaging. By midday, I'd received 7 inquiries from business associates, all conveying a mixture of apprehension and subtle judgment. The president of the Spokane Rotary Club delicately inquired about my temperament concerning upcoming civic projects. 3 separate subcontracting firms independently mentioned hearing unsettling rumors that could jeopardize our professional collaborations. Isabella and Julian had shrewdly selected their battleground. In a community like Spokane, reputation functioned as a vital currency. To dismantle an individual's standing in the commercial sphere was to dismantle their very livelihood. However, they had overlooked a critical variable. I drove directly to my residence and meticulously retrieved the comprehensive financial dossier Margaret Vance had assisted me in compiling. 25 years of financial history painstakingly categorized and summarized. Every receipt, every transfer, every expense, Isabella had conveniently overlooked or never once acknowledged with gratitude. Then it was my turn to initiate contact. "Margaret," I stated, my voice firm, "I need to arrange a press conference for tomorrow morning. We are making all financial documentation public." "Are you absolutely certain?" she inquired, a hint of caution in her tone. "Once this information is released, there's no retracting it. Isabella and Julian have already made their version public. Now it is time for the unvarnished truth." The subsequent 6 hours were dedicated to systematic preparation. I reached out directly to the Spokane Business Journal, offering complete transparency regarding my financial records. I contacted the 3 journalists Isabella's campaign had approached, promising irrefutable documented evidence that would reveal the authentic account. Crucially, I connected with decades-long business partners, influential community leaders, and professional peers, individuals who had witnessed the painstaking genesis of Vance Holdings from its humble beginnings, who had observed my unwavering dedication to both enterprise and family over a quarter-century. "Dave," I instructed my foreman, "I'm personally contacting everyone on our contractor roster. Tomorrow a comprehensive exposé will be released clarifying Isabella's situation once and for all." By late evening, I had secured confirmation that the Spokane Business Journal would feature an exclusive story. Local news channels committed to covering the morning press conference. The exhaustive documentation was duplicated and prepared for immediate dissemination. Isabella's calculated assault had spanned 3 days. My counter-maneuver would culminate in a single morning. The truth, meticulously substantiated and professionally articulated, would resonate far more profoundly than social media theatrics or emotional pleas. 24 days remained on the legal ultimatum. By tomorrow afternoon, Isabella would undeniably grasp that the high-stakes game of reputation destruction was best left to those who possessed genuine substance to safeguard. Tuesday morning arrived with the unwavering precision of a meticulously drafted blueprint. At the stroke of 9, I disseminated 25 years of meticulously chronicled financial transactions across every digital platform Isabella and Julian had contaminated with their deceit. The presentation was deliberate, dispassionate, unassailable. Undeniable bank statements meticulously compiled, unveiled transfers exceeding $950,000 across 2.5 decades. Categorized spreadsheets dissected the exorbitant costs of her elite education, her fleet of luxury vehicles, lavish housing allowances, and an array of lifestyle indulgences. A poignant collection of photographs depicted Isabella Thorne at every stage of her undeniably privileged existence. Each snapshot was juxtaposed with its corresponding financial, underpinning a testament to absolute transparency. 25 years of unwavering paternal provision laid bare. The chosen headline proclaimed, "The true cost of entitlement, a father's unseen sacrifice." Beneath it, a comprehensive, unforgiving timeline illustrated Isabella's gradual metamorphosis from a cherished, appreciative child into a demanding, entitled adult, every dollar disbursed, every expense meticulously documented and independently verified. The public's reaction was swift and resounding. Within the hour, my phone began to chime with calls from a different caliber of voices. This time, their tones were not laced with apprehension, but with profound admiration. "Arthur," exclaimed Tom Bradley from Bradley Electrical, his voice hushed with awe. "I had no earthly idea of the sheer scope of support you provided. My own children's entire college tuition barely totals $20,000 a year. You were spending that much each semester." Bob Martinez from Martinez Concrete called back, his customary gruffness replaced by genuine contrition. "Arthur, I owe you a sincere apology. Having witnessed those bank records, I grasp precisely the magnitude of what you've endured. That level of ungrateful entitlement would utterly dismantle even the most resilient parent. The social media narrative inverted with the force of a tidal wave receding. Comments that had initially championed Isabella's victimhood now appeared astonishingly misguided and uninformed against the stark, uncompromising backdrop of documented financial truth. Screenshots of irrefutable bank statements displaying annual university tuition payments of over 50,000 itemized receipts for a succession of 3 distinct high-end luxury automobiles. 25 years of opulent housing, designer wardrobes, and a lifestyle that most working families would deem an unattainable fantasy. Margaret Vance. My legal counsel called precisely at 11:00 a.m., her voice tinged with a rare note of genuine triumph. "Arthur," she announced, "the public response has been utterly extraordinary. The Spokane Business Journal is requesting an exclusive feature story focusing on parental financial responsibility versus inherent entitlement. You have quite remarkably transformed a calculated assault on your character into an impactful, citywide, teachable moment." By midday, Isabella's original emotionally charged social media diatribe appeared utterly trivial, pathetic, and utterly unconvincing against the insurmountable edifice of the evidence I had meticulously presented. People were now sharing my documentation, widely appending comments such as, "This is the epitome of genuine parental sacrifice, and frankly, it's no surprise he's seeking repayment." Providing this level of support constitutes a full-time profession in itself. The entire Spokane construction community rallied unequivocally to my defense. Contractors who had days prior subtly questioned my stability were now openly circulating anecdotes extolling my unwavering work ethic and unimpeachable integrity. The president of the Spokane Rotary Club issued a robust public statement unequivocally endorsing my stance. Even the mayor's office released a carefully worded communiqué underscoring the critical importance of financial responsibility within familial dynamics. Dave, my foreman, texted me from the sprawling construction site. "Boss, the entire crew is discussing your situation. Everyone is unequivocally behind you. No one can fathom the ordeal Isabella subjected you to." Local news outlets eagerly seized upon the unfolding drama, framing it as a compelling human interest story centered on themes of profound parental sacrifice and ultimate accountability. The unimpeachable documented evidence streamlined their journalistic task. They merely needed to present the unvarnished facts and allow the viewing public to formulate their own conclusions. Isabella's preemptive strike had catastrophically backfired. Her carefully constructed facade of victimhood simply disintegrated upon encountering 25 years of meticulously documented financial reality. The very community that had fleetingly cast doubts on my stability was now unequivocally scrutinizing hers. Julian Blackwood's once formidable family connections now ironically worked against their cause. Their exclusive social circle was gaining an uncomfortably clear insight into the true character of the individuals they had so readily welcomed into their esteemed network. The credibility of the Blackwood family, once a shield, was now tainted by association with the dissemination of outright falsehoods against a respected businessman who had done nothing more than meticulously document the truth. By evening, the entire public narrative had undergone a complete, unequivocal reversal. Isabella and Julian were no longer perceived as the aggrieved victims of a callous father. Instead, they were exposed as entitled individuals who had ruthlessly attacked a profoundly generous parent the moment he dared to establish necessary boundaries. The irrefutable documentation wove a narrative that no amount of emotional manipulation or distorted social media theatrics could possibly undermine. Every single bank statement served as a stark, undeniable chapter in 25 years of unwavering sacrifice. Every single receipt stood as irrefutable evidence of a love that had been utterly and carelessly taken for granted. My phone vibrated with an incoming text from Isabella. "Father," it pleaded, "please take down those financial records. People are saying the most horrific things about us." I deleted the message without even a moment's hesitation, leaving it unread. 23 days remained on the legal ultimatum. The rigorous, agonizing education she was receiving was nearing its completion. Julian Blackwood's bespoke smartphone vibrated with an aggressive insistence just after 6:30 on Wednesday morning, dragging both him and Isabella Thorne from a fitful, shallow sleep. The opulent hotel suite, which had felt so expansive just a week prior, now seemed to shrink with each passing hour, suffocating them with the oppressive weight of public scrutiny, the echoing chambers of social media condemnation, and an undeniable, crushing financial dread. "Julian, this is Lord Percival Blackwood." The voice, sharp and unyielding, resonated with the cold authority of generations of inherited power, filtering through the phone speaker for Isabella to hear. "We require your immediate presence." Isabella watched Julian's face blanch, his complexion draining of all color as he listened to demands she couldn't quite decipher, only sense their grim implications. His responses were clipped, curt-laced, with a defensive edge. "Yes, Uncle Percival, I grasp the societal implications. No, I was not fully apprised of the meticulousness of his documentation. The situation has proven considerably more elaborate than we were led to believe." The chilling discourse lasted precisely 12 minutes. When Julian finally disconnected the call, he stared at the inert device for a long moment as if it held the answers to a catastrophic enigma before finally speaking. "My family expects me back at the estate this very day. Back to the estate. Julian, this is merely a temporary setback. My father will relent once he grasps the enormity of his actions." "Isabella, stop." His voice carried a chilling finality, a tone of absolute, irrevocable decision she had never before witnessed. "My father, and indeed the entire board of the Blackwood Family Trust, received calls yesterday from 3 distinct business partners, each expressing acute concern over our association with this financial imbroglio. The country club is alight with sordid gossip concerning the Blackwood lineage's alleged ties to a scandal involving blatant fiscal irresponsibility. It's a disgrace. Fiscal irresponsibility? That's utterly preposterous," Isabella retorted, her own burgeoning panic morphing into indignant denial. This is merely a petty family squabble that spiraled wildly out of control. Julian had already begun to extract his impeccably tailored garments from the drawers, shoving them into his leather valise with sharp, frustrated movements. Your father, Arthur Vance, disseminated bank records displaying nearly $1 million in financial support that you apparently never once deigned to acknowledge. To my family's social stratum, Isabella, that appears at best as egregious deception, and at worst as calculated manipulative parasitism. Isabella felt a wave of icy panic surge into her chest, an arctic current that threatened to overwhelm her. You're abandoning me. We exchanged vows just 6 days ago, Julian. 6 days, Isabella. He countered his packing movements, growing more agitated, more aggressive, that have systematically annihilated my professional reputation and irrevocably damaged my family's standing within the community. I possess a substantial trust fund, Isabella, significant business prospects, an entire future that hinges entirely upon the meticulous preservation of certain crucial relationships. What of our relationship, Julian? What of our marriage vows, which we swore before God and all our guests? Julian ceased his furious packing, turning to face her directly, his gaze piercing, devoid of warmth, for the first time since the damning phone call. What marriage, Isabella? You have willfully drawn me into a catastrophic financial quagmire without so much as a pretense of warning. Your father is now demanding almost $1 million in immediate repayment, a sum you clearly have no conceivable means of settling. My family's legal counsel has explicitly advised me to protect myself from any potential culpability or financial entanglement. Culpability, I am your wife, Julian. You are Isabella, a staggering financial burden with no demonstrable assets and an astronomical debt. Those words struck Isabella with the crushing force of physical blows, each one echoing the brutal truth. My family, Isabella, simply cannot afford to be associated with a scandal of this devastating magnitude. Isabella's own phone, which had remained mercifully silent for days, suddenly vibrated, signaling an incoming text from Julian's mother. Isabella, dear Julian truly must come home now. Family obligations, you understand. The saccharine politeness in the message somehow rendered the impact even more cutting. Even Julian's mother, who had effusively praised Isabella's grace and beauty at their lavish wedding, was now severing ties with chilling surgical precision. Julian, please, we can navigate this together. My father, despite his current anger, loves me unconditionally. This entire ordeal will eventually recede. Isabella, observe your surroundings. Julian gestured dismissively at her open laptop, its screen still displaying the devastating vitriolic social media comments. This is not merely receding. Your father has meticulously published financial records dating back a quarter century. People are now widely labeling you as a trust fund parasite who has never undertaken a single day of honest labor in her life. And the accusation, Isabella, stings precisely because it is irrefutably accurate. Isabella had indeed never retained a job for longer than 6 months. She had never once contributed financially to her own extravagant upkeep. She had never in her pampered existence bothered to question the source of her exceedingly comfortable lifestyle. I was merely fulfilling my role as a daughter. Daughters are inherently supposed to be supported by their fathers. Not Isabella. Julian interjected, pulling the zipper on his packed suitcase closed with an emphatic snap to the tune of nearly $1 million over 25 years, without a single iota of gratitude or any semblance of reciprocation. My family, Isabella, operates within circles where individuals actively contribute to the advancement of society. They painstakingly build thriving businesses, generously support worthy charities, and proactively create tangible value. What, Isabella? He concluded, his voice dripping with contempt. have you ever created in your life besides an endless cascade of expenses? Isabella felt something profound, shattering within her chest. It was not merely the abrupt dissolution of her newly minted marriage, but the complete disintegration of her fundamental understanding of herself and her perceived place in the meticulously constructed world she had inhabited. Where will I go, Julian? I don't possess any funds for this suite. My lines of credit are exhausted. Every contact has gone silent. Julian paused at the ornate door, his fingers gripping the polished brass handle. Contact your father, Isabella. Offer a genuine apology. Take accountability for once. Perhaps he can guide you on the path to becoming a functional adult. Julian, please don't abandon me here. Isabella, he stated, his voice devoid of compassion. I've felt solitary in this union since its inception. Your sole contributions have been escalating demands and financial burdens. His tone, against all odds, softened infinitesimally. Perhaps this complete unraveling will finally impart the lessons your father's boundless wealth never could. The heavy door swung shut behind him with the resounding thud of a tomb ceiling. Isabella stared at the sprawling hotel room, which had in an instant become an echoing, desolate void. Her elaborate bridal gown remained suspended in the closet, a cruel, shimmering monument to a mere 6 days that had catastrophically dismantled her entire world. No spouse, no family network, no trusted friends, no financial means. For the first time in her privileged 28 years, Isabella Thorne found herself entirely isolated. She reached for her phone, scrolling past dozens of unanswered calls and ignored texts, until her thumb hovered over the contact she hadn't dared to dial since that initial desperate Saturday. The name Arthur Vance illuminated the screen, a flickering beacon of a lifeline she felt entirely undeserving of. 22 days remained on the legal ultimatum. 22 days to conjure nearly $1 million she didn't possess, to salvage shattered relationships, to forge an identity she had never until this moment been compelled to embrace. The line rang only once, before his familiar voice answered. Hello, Isabella. His tone was devoid of the accustomed warmth she'd taken for granted her entire life, yet equally free of cruelty, just a quiet, unsettling acknowledgement that his daughter was finally calling, stripped bare of everything. Father. The word escaped her lips, fragmented, barely a whisper. I don't know where to begin. Start with the truth. His voice was steady, unwavering. Do you finally comprehend the totality of what has transpired? This week, Isabella's gaze swept across the opulent hotel room, Julian's stark absence, the laptop screen still blazing with hundreds of vitriolic comments condemning her. The crushing weight of decades of unthinking entitlement descended upon her, a catastrophic collapse. My husband abandoned me this morning. His family has unequivocally disowned me. I lack the funds for this evening's hotel expenses, she confessed, her voice fracturing. Everyone despises me. Do you understand precisely why his question hung, suspended in the air, an undeniable gauntlet? For a lifetime she had skillfully deflected blame, concocted elaborate excuses, always finding an external scapegoat for every misstep. Not this time. Because I perceived you merely as an inexhaustible financial resource, not as a human being, she began, the words burning her throat. Because I never genuinely appreciated the monumental sacrifices you made for me. Because I was self-centered, utterly entitled, and undeniably cruel. A heavy silence stretched between them, punctuated only by his calm, measured breathing. Continue. I reviewed the financial documentation you disseminated, Over $950,000 over 25 years. I never once questioned the source of that immense capital. I never offered proper gratitude. I never truly contemplated what you relinquished to sustain my lifestyle. Tears streamed freely down her face, the first genuine tears she'd shed since this nightmare began. I summarily dismissed you from my own wedding, a wedding you financed in its entirety. What else? Isabella. His voice was firm, pressing. I attempted to utterly dismantle your reputation when you finally asserted yourself against me. I disseminated falsehoods about you across social media platforms. I conspired with Julian's family to propagate damaging rumors concerning your character. Each admission felt like a surgical extraction of venom from a deeply infected wound. I epitomized every negative stereotype of a pampered child who refuses to mature. Isabella, his voice against all expectations, softened almost imperceptibly. Do you recall when you were 8 after your mother passed? You would embrace me every evening and declare me the finest father in the world. I remember, she whispered. I yearned to provide you with everything, because my love for you was boundless. Yet somewhere along that trajectory, providing you with everything, paradoxically became the very reason you ceased reciprocating that love. I never stopped loving you, Father. Isabella interjected, her voice hoarse. I stopped demonstrating it. I stopped cultivating gratitude. I ceased being a daughter and transformed into a relentless consumer. What do you require of me now? The question filled her with a profound dread, for she understood it transcended mere immediate assistance. It encompassed the very nature of any future relationship they might forge. I desire to earn your respect, she confessed, her voice gaining a fragile strength. I yearn to evolve into the daughter you truly merit. I want to comprehend how to be an adult who actively contributes rather than merely drains. I had merely consumed. My reflection in the hotel mirror showed a hollow-eyed strange-sinder stripped of her carefully constructed illusions. But how does one rebuild from nothing? I desperately needed a foothold, a lifeline just long enough to prove I could stand on my own. Father, my voice was raw. I need a small advance. Just enough to stay here perhaps another week while I search for any employment. I need a chance to prove I'm not entirely useless. Isabella, if I extend this aid, it comes with uncompromising stipulations. His tone was devoid of softness. Anything, Father. I swear. You will secure gainful employment within a fortnight. I care not if it involves scrubbing floors or serving strangers. Your pride, my dear, has become an insupportable burden, one you must now shed. The word stung, but I nodded. I understand. For a minimum of 6 months, you will solicit no further financial assistance from me. You will subsist solely on what you earn. Yes, our weekly dialogues will cease to be one-sided transactions. They will be the exchanges of 2 independent adults. That is precisely what I desire, Father. I want to earn the privilege of being your daughter again. Isabella. He stated the faintest hint of something other than sternness in his voice. I will wire $1,000 to your account. This is strictly to cover your accommodation here for 7 days and procure essential provisions. Beyond that, you are entirely self-reliant. Father, thank you. I know I don't deserve. You are correct. You do not. Yet every individual, even at 28 years of age, deserves the opportunity to mature, to grasp the tangible value of self-sufficiency. His voice held a complex blend of unwavering authority and a deep underlying sorrow. I have always loved you, Isabella. Now the true test begins to see if I can at last respect you. I will not fail you. I vowed the words heavy with genuine intent. Never again. We shall ascertain that he replied, a fleeting, almost imperceptible softening in his tone. Goodbye, Isabella. The line clicked dead. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, the suffocating grip of despair loosened, replaced not by solace, but by a fragile, terrifying sense of possibility. The daunting path to self-respect stretched before me. I had 21 days to demonstrate a fundamental shift in my being. A lifetime would be required to reclaim what I had so thoughtlessly squandered. My trembling fingers navigated to the job search portal. Every entry-level listing, from hospitality associate to retail assistant, appeared as an insurmountable Everest to someone whose hands had never truly known honest labor. But the prospect of intimidating effort, I realized, was infinitely preferable to the crushing weight of utter hopelessness. For the very first time, Isabella Thorne would embark on the arduous journey of earning her existence. The genuine curriculum of life had at long last commenced.